My name is Pastor Gerald. I'm from Victory Outreach City Centre in Dublin, Ireland. Ireland is known all over Europe as a beautiful country. The Irish people are known as a welcoming people. We're known all over the country for our sense of humour. A country that welcomes people into our country. I grew up in a family of 12. I had 6 brothers, 6 sisters. I'm the third last youngest in my family, and I grew up in a place called Dolphins Barn, and that's on the south side of the city. This is where I grew up, right here. This is like, oh my God, the childhood memories are flying by.
Is that your house?
That was my house, yeah.
Wow.
We lived in that house in there back in the 90s, and there was 14 of us. There was 6 brothers and 6 sisters, and my mum and my dad, and there was only 2 bedrooms. So we had 6 in one room, and we had 6 in another, and then my mum used to sleep out in what would you call the sitting room, the lounge. I remember one night, it was real late at night, and I was running. See the line that holds the clothes wrapped around my neck. And I went up into the air, and when I came down, I hit my head on the ground, and I also died then, and my ma's brother brought me back to life also as well. And as I was growing up, I was a young man that was interested in football, soccer, sports, basketball, volleyball, and I had a good upbringing. My dad was a hard worker, and my mum was a great mum. In Dublin, there's a great culture of soccer, football, and from a young age, from the time I was 5 years of age, I used to carry a football around with me everywhere I went, because I loved playing soccer. And while all the other kids were off doing other things, I was on the football pitch practicing soccer, practicing my heads, my kicks, and everything. And I got to the stage where, in Dublin, where I became known as a good footballer, you know, and other teams in Dublin wanted me to play for other teams. So I played for all the best teams in Dublin, and then eventually a call came for me to go over to England to play football over in England. Yeah, this was all before I started getting addicted to heroin, to methadone, to tablets, whatever else. That was all before that. From the time 22 and after, that's when my life really began to spiral. Heroin, methadone, crack cocaine. Heroin came into Ireland about in 1980. The heroin epidemic hit Ireland, hit the streets of Ireland, and ever since then, there's been a big heroin epidemic here in Ireland. Not only in Dublin, but in Cork, in Limerick, in Belfast, all over Ireland, there's young men and women that are lost, that are bound to heroin addiction. This is where they used to stand from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, selling drugs. And this is people from all over Dublin used to come here and buy their drugs. It was at the age of 22 years of age, I started experimenting with ecstasy, and I went to what you call a rave, a dance, one Saturday night, and I was taking about 6 or 7 ecstasy tablets, and I was so high, so out of it, that I couldn't go back to my ma, because my ma was old at the time. She was like 65, so I didn't want to go back to my ma and let her see me like that. So I asked one of my friends in the disco, how am I going to come down off the ecstasy tablet? And he told me to come back to his house, and he would give me something that would take me down straight away. And that's when I first started experimenting with heroin, at the age of 22 years of age. This is where I started taking heroin, all along here. I used to inject here in the halls. This is where we used to inject the heroin, in the hallway. Standing here, keeping watch for people that they weren't looking, and then I'd go up there, and then I'd inject the heroin into my veins. And then from heroin I went on to crack cocaine, and then from crack cocaine I went on to a thing called methadone, and it's a substitute for heroin. They give the drug addicts that want to come off heroin, they give the methadone as a substitute, but it's not a substitute, because you end up getting worse. Your life ends up getting worse, and you just keep going down and down and down again. But then I graduated from crack cocaine to alcohol, and then eventually just taking prescription drugs. My addiction was bad. It was really like, maybe sometimes I'd spend like maybe $600, $800 a day on my heroin addiction. There's some days I'd spend even up to $1,000 a day, €1,000 a day on my heroin addiction. That's how bad it was. When I started my heroin addiction, I went to London to try and get off my heroin, but when I went over there, I got worse and worse and worse.
My name's Tommy Jitabo, and I've known Jerry for about 22 years on the streets of King's Cross, London, England, when he came from Ireland. You know, he came to London as a drug addict, and he became a junkie on the streets of King's Cross.
And eventually I had to start robbing, you know, stealing for my addiction. I'd mug people on the streets.
You would always see Jerry running up and down. Someone always chasing him, or he was chasing someone.
I'd jump over counters in the stores to grab the cash register and run away with the money, and then eventually it led me to a lifestyle of prison. I was in and out of prison for about maybe 5-6 years of my addiction, in and out, just constantly. For anyone that has ever been in a prison, from the first day that you walk in to a prison, it's a whole new world. It's a whole new world, it's a whole new culture in there. And you either have to adapt very quickly, or the system is going to eat you up. You know, so when I went into prison, I had to put on a persona where it was tough and where it was hard. You know, you walk around the yard and you see fights, you see people getting stabbed. You know, you see people in cells and you see 3 or 4 guys running into their cells and baiting them up. And there used to be a thing years ago where you got a stocking, you know, a stocking, and you filled it with batteries. And you used to, that's how you'd fight on the landing. These are times in my life when I was down and I was injecting heroin. And I was injecting, the more you take heroin, the more you have to take, just to make yourself well, to keep yourself from getting sick. And I remember one day, I was in the street and I went into a toilet and I injected heroin into my veins and I died. And they brought me to the hospital in an ambulance, and when I got there, the doctor got a needle that size full of adrenaline and he put it into my heart and then he shocked me back.
A typical day was like 7 o'clock in the morning, was like you would know he hadn't been asleep. You know, he'd be running the streets, looking for a drug dealer, looking for anyone who had money to support his addiction or to borrow something, you know.
I lost everything. Everything. I lost my family. I lost my mom. I lost my dad. You know, I had my kids when I was young, when I was 21 years of age, you know, and I put heroin before my kids. You know, I lost my self-respect. You know, I was living on the streets, homeless for 15 years. You know, I was begging. You know, I had a beard. You know, had a beard down to here. And I had hair all the way down to back. I didn't really care about myself, because heroin, once heroin gets a hold of your life, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. So basically heroin was my everything. Everything. It took everything away from me. Heroin took everything that I loved, everything that I cherished. Heroin took it away. Luckily, the mother of my first kids, she wasn't a drug addict. You know, so I kept taking drugs, and eventually she just got fed up. You know, and she told me, no, you have to leave. But no, I never lost my kids to the system. They had a good mother that looked after them. I actually have 5 right now at the moment. 5 kids right now at the moment. From previous relationships. Before I met my wife now, I have 3 kids from previous relationships. For the first 15 years of my kids' lives, they hardly knew me. They hardly knew me. And I have a daughter. Her name is Sinead. And I met a girl on the streets of London. And we started taking heroin, crack cocaine, and methadone together. And my daughter Sinead, she was born addicted to heroin, to crack cocaine. She was born addicted to tablets. And they had to put her on a thing because the pain, the first 3 days of her life, she was going through so much pain. They had to put her on morphine, you know, morphine, to ease the pains. But every time I walked into the hospital to go and visit her, I could hear her screaming. So I wouldn't just walk in and leave because, you know, because of what I was at the doing to her, you know, that sort of way.
Very bad. Jerry was a junkie, what you call a junkie. what society, the government say, there's no hope for that sort of person. Jerry was putting needles all over his body.
That's from where I used to inject heroin. You can see scars. As you can see, my legs are in pretty bad shape because of my drug addiction. And I used to inject right here, all along here, all up here, and there's a hole right there. There's a hole in my groin, you know my groin?
Yeah.
There's a hole in my groin from injecting crack cocaine and heroin into my groin.
You know, and if you would to give him a name on the streets, it was like death warmed up, like a zombie.
My name is Julie Martin and I'm married to Jared Martin. When I first saw him, I noticed him, he was in the men's home, and I remember he was tall, very skinny, pale, not a lot of weight on him. I noticed he had a big scar on the side of his face, and you know, he was really bad, very rough looking.
My worst and my most dangerous experience was when I was in King's Cross and I was selling drugs, and I ripped people off. I stole their drugs, and I left King's Cross and went somewhere for an hour, and I came back to King's Cross and someone told me that, Jerry, you need to get out of here because there's had to been 3 guys here with knives and with guns. And he said, they're going to get you and they're going to kill you and then they're going to cut you up into pieces and then that's it. So that was probably my worst experience. And then 2 days later, I was on the same corner and I got a tip on my shoulder and I turned around and I looked up and all I seen was a knife coming down, a Stanley blade. And the guy was going for hair in my throat. But as you can see, the scar on my face, that's where he got the scar on my face. I'm lucky that he didn't get there, he didn't cut my throat. I regret taking drugs. You know, I never, ever in my life thought I'd end up a drug addict. You know, because I was always healthy, jogging, fit. You know, I always kept myself fit. I played football, played all sports, and if I could change anything, if I could go back to that night where I said, when I went to my friend, and I said, have you got anything to take me down off this heroin? That if I could go back 20 years, that would be the night I'd wish I could go back to. I was on the streets, homeless, in King's Cross, and I used to go to King's Cross every Friday. They used to have a place there for drug addicts. And I was walking by King's Cross station, and I heard a lot of people on the far side singing songs. You know, they were singing songs, I'm so glad Jesus set me free. I used to be a junkie, but Jesus set me free. So I walked over, and there was a guy called Stephen Wooldridge that used to run the men's home in London. So I pulled him aside, and I talked to him, and I said, what's this? And he said, well, a Christian organisation called Victory Outreach. We help people that with drug problems and alcohol problems. And he said, if you need help, you know, you can come into our Christian rehabilitation home. And I asked him, what's it about? And he says, it's where we pray, we read our Bible, we pray for you, and we're going to believe God that he's going to deliver you from your heroin addiction. But right away I went, no, yous are crazy. Yous are mad. Yous are them people that they call Bible bashers, you know, happy, clappy Christians.
And when I got saved, I went back to the streets with art, and we'd be walking up and down, witnessing to the drug addicts, the people who knew me. And I would get a glimpse of Jerry every now and again, either in King's Cross or in the West End. And I would call out to him, Jerry, you know, and he would see us and he'd go, no, I'm not ready for that stuff. And he would take off. But we always got to see him. But Jerry was just being who he was, a drug addict.
But I kept going back and I kept going back and I kept going back. And then one day I got so fed up and I said, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. So I went into the Victory Outreach Christian Rehabilitation Home in Victory Outreach, London. And that's where God just began to get a hold of my life. My lowest point was Christmas, one Christmas day. I was in a hostel in London and I was at the buying, I think it was $1,500 worth of heroin and crack cocaine the day beforehand. And I woke up the next morning and I had nothing left. It was all gone. I had one can of beer beside me on Christmas Day. So I drank that can of beer and I was lying on the bed and I was thinking, you know, this is it, I'm finished, I've nothing left. My life is over, I've nothing to live for. So I got a bed sheet and I tied 2 bed sheets together, and I was going to put 1 bed sheet around my neck and another bed sheet was tied to a heater in the room, and I opened the window and I was going to run, and I was just about to jump out the window. And I heard a song, Christmas Day. I can remember it as if it was yesterday. I heard a song from years and years and years ago. It was a song about love, you know, and just as I was about to jump out the window, I heard a voice saying, I love you. I love you. I heard a voice saying, don't do it. You know, and I went, what's that? And I stopped, and then I heard the voice again saying, I love you. Don't do it. I have a plan for your life. And right there, I knew because I was after being in the Victory Outreach Recovery Home before that. I was there for 3 months, and I knew it was God. I knew that was God telling me, listen, Jerry, don't kill yourself. You know, there is hope. And I can remember, I feel like, even right now, I feel like crying just even thinking about it, because I know that was the day that God stepped in and saved my life and turned my life around. God has changed me from a nobody into a somebody. You know, God's given me a reason to wake up every morning. You know, I have something to live for. You know, I have something to live for. I was dead. I was dying. I wanted to die, and then when the love of God came into my life, and you know, and he gave me that love that no one else could give me. You know, and when I wake up every morning, it's like a new day. You know, it's a new day. Okay, God, what have you got for me today? What you want me to do today? And it's my life now is I'm so blessed.
He's changed a lot. When I first seen him in the men's recovery home, he's changed a lot. After a couple of weeks, you know, you'd see him coming in with the men's home. So every week I watched him, you know, changed and turn into the man of God that he is today, and a great father today.
If you don't know Jesus, then you wouldn't understand the miracle working power that is taking place within his life. You know, he is truly a miracle of the grace of God.
God has blessed my life. I came into the home over 13 years ago. I seen my wife Julie, she was singing on the worship team. And God told me, even though I was kicking my addiction, God told me, you know what, one day you're going to marry that woman. You know, and I thought I was going crazy. I was telling the guys in the home, I'm going to marry her one day, I'm going to marry her. And all the guys were saying, no, you're crazy, you know, you're still kicking your addiction, you know, you need to, don't be worrying about that right now. But now I have a wife, you know, I have 5 beautiful kids. You know, I belong to a beautiful church. I belong to a beautiful ministry. You know, I'm just glad to be part of Victory Outreach, and I'm glad to be part of the vision that God has here for Ireland.
Loving husband, loving father to his children, and he loves the ministry of Victory Outreach, and he loves the streets. He's passionate about what he does. He has compassion for the lost, and he has a great personality, very funny. You know, always wanted to have fun, laugh and joke, and he's overall, he's the perfect man.
Now, I'm actually part of a team here in Victory Outreach City Centre in Ireland. I'm actually an evangelist, where I go out on the streets and I reach out to drug addicts, I reach out to people with alcohol, people that are down in the gutter, you know, the sort of people that no one else wants to reach. You know, God has given me a burden for souls. He's given me a passion for people. You know, that's what God has given me. He's given me a passion for people.
Really kind, you know, available for anyone, and an example of the love of Christ.
He influenced me of just being myself. He always told me, never try to be anybody else, just be yourself, because that's who God created me to be. And he always influenced me to do better, you know, to reach more souls, you know, to be better, you know, spiritually, you know, growing, and, you know, commitment, and he always looking for the best. So that's how he inspires me, always for me to give God my best.
I'm blessed to have 5 beautiful kids. What more could I ask for? You know, if I didn't get blessed anymore, I'd still live the rest of my life, I'd still live a blessed life.
He has really changed. There is no two ways about it. There's no darkness in his life. He is truly an example of forgiveness and the love of Christ.
It makes me laugh. Sometimes, you know, when life is not really, you know, going the way you want it to go, he would make you laugh through the storms and through trials and through hard times. he would make you laugh, and that's probably one of the best things I love about him. He always makes me smile.
My future, I can see in about 2 or 3 years, hopefully we have a team here, but in about 2 or 3 years, hopefully me and my wife can go and maybe open another church here in Dublin, and another men's recovery home, a women's recovery home, and then maybe a youth home as well. I'm grateful to God that he saved me. I'm grateful to God that God saved me. You know, that he picked someone like me. He picked me up out of the gutter, and he's given me a reason to live. I'm grateful for my wife, for my kids, but I'm also grateful for this ministry, the ministry of Victory Outreach, for Pastor Sonny and you know, for Pastor Sonny and Sister Julie, you know, for answering the call, and you know, for stepping out and believing in people like us, you know, because no one else was willing to give us a chance, only Victory Outreach. No one else in the city of Dublin wanted to know about drug addicts or alcoholics or prostitutes. It's only when Victory Outreach come into the city of Dublin, that's when they start pulling people out of darkness, and that's why I'm here today. I'm here today because of God, and I'm here today because of Victory Outreach.